What if the terror you feel when you glimpse your reflection in the mirror isn't about aging itself, but about the profound emptiness you've mistaken for living? What if every wrinkle, every gray hair, every ache in your bones is not a countdown to death, but a desperate invitation from life itself, calling you to finally wake up from the sleepwalk you've been calling existence? There exists a secret so powerful, so transformative, that it can turn your deepest fear into your greatest. Liberation. Yet most people die without ever discovering it, carrying their terror of time like a stone in their chest until their very last breath. The world has sold you a beautiful lie, that youth equals meaning, that smooth skin equals worth, that the ticking clock is your enemy rather than your most honest teacher. But what Viktor Frankl discovered in the darkest corners of human suffering reveals something that will shatter everything you believe about growing older, something so counterintuitive that your mind will resist it, yet so undeniably true that once you see it, you can never unsee it. This isn't about positive thinking or denial. This is about recognizing the hidden architecture of meaning that transforms every passing year from a loss into a profound gain, every limitation into a doorway, every ending into a beginning you never saw coming. Right now, at this very moment, there are people half your age who are already dead inside, and others twice your age who are more alive than they've ever been. And the difference between them isn't genetics, luck, or circumstances. It's a single shift in perspective that Frankl called the key to psychological freedom, a secret so simple it seems impossible, yet so revolutionary, it changes everything about how you experience the passage of time. The question isn't whether you'll age, that's already decided. The question is whether you'll discover what aging is actually for before it's too late to use it as the greatest tool for meaning-making you'll ever possess. Picture this. You're standing in front of a mirror at 60, 70, or 80 years old, and instead of seeing defeat written across your face, you see something the young cannot possess, the accumulated weight of choices that have shaped you into someone irreplaceable. Frankl understood what most never grasp, that aging isn't the gradual theft of who you are, but the slow revelation of who you've always been beneath the masks society forced you to wear. Every line on your face is a map of battles fought, loves lost and found, moments when you chose meaning over comfort, courage over safety. But here's what haunts most people as they age. They realize they've spent decades performing a version of themselves rather than becoming themselves. And now time feels like an enemy because they're afraid it's too late to live authentically. The secret Frankl discovered changes everything about this equation, turning the mirror from a judge into a witness of your becoming. You've been conditioned to believe that your value decreases with each passing year, that your relevance fades as your body changes, that wisdom is no match for youth's energy. But what if this entire paradigm is not just wrong, but deliberately destructive? What if the culture's obsession with youth isn't about beauty or vitality, but about keeping you disconnected from the profound power that comes with lived experience? Frankl saw through this deception during his darkest hours, when, stripped of everything external, he discovered that suffering and time aren't obstacles to meaning. They're the raw materials from which meaning is forged. The young have potential. The aging have proof. The young have dreams. The aging have testimonies. The young have tomorrow. The aging have today, with all its accumulated weight and crystallized understanding. When you truly grasp what Frankl meant by saying yes to life in spite of everything, aging transforms from a process of loss into a process of distillation. You're not becoming less. You're becoming more concentrated, more essential, more precisely yourself. Every friendship that has deepened over decades, every skill you've mastered through repetition, every sorrow you've survived and transformed into compassion, represents a kind of spiritual wealth that cannot be stolen by time. But most people fight this process, spending their energy trying to preserve what was rather than embracing what is becoming, missing the profound freedom that comes when you stop pretending to be who you were and start being who you are. The mirror stops being your enemy when you realize it's reflecting not your decline but your refinement. Yet there's a deeper layer to this transformation that most miss entirely. The way aging forces you to confront the ultimate questions that youth can safely ignore. What really matters? What legacy am I creating with each choice? How do I want to be remembered by the world I'm leaving behind? These aren't morbid questions. They're liberating ones, because they cut through all the superficial concerns and drive you straight to the heart of meaning. Frankl discovered that when you stop running from mortality and start walking with it as a companion, every moment becomes precious not because it might be your last, but because it's irreplaceable in the story you're telling with your life. The young live as if they have infinite time. The aging live as if every moment counts. And this shift in perspective is where the real magic happens. This is where most people stumble. They confuse the aging of their body with the aging of their spirit, not understanding that while one follows biological laws, the other follows completely different rules. The rules of meaning, purpose, and conscious choice. Your body may slow down, but your capacity for depth, for connection, for leaving something beautiful behind can actually accelerate with age, if you know how to work with time instead of against it. Frankl's secret isn't about denying the reality of physical aging. It's about recognizing that your truest self, the part of you that creates meaning, that loves deeply, that touches other lives, doesn't age at all. It just gets more refined, more concentrated, more powerful with each passing year if you have the courage to let it. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, where most people turn away from the mirror of truth. You've been aging wrong, not because you've chosen the wrong creams or exercises, but because you've been aging unconsciously, letting time happen to you rather than happening through time. Every birthday you've dreaded, every over-the-hill joke you've laughed at while dying inside, every moment you've wished you could go back, these aren't natural responses to aging. They're symptoms of a life unlived, dreams deferred, purposes ignored. Frankl would tell you that the fear of aging is really the fear of facing how much of your life you've spent on autopilot, and the terror that there might not be enough time left to course correct. The good news is that consciousness can be awakened at any moment, at any age, but it requires looking directly at what you've been avoiding. Think about the people you know who seem to glow with an inner light as they age, who become more interesting, more magnetic, more alive with each passing decade. What do they have that the others don't? It's not genetics or luck. It's a relationship with time that treats each year not as a countdown to death, but as another chapter in an ongoing story of becoming. They've learned what Frankl knew. That meaning isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's something you create fresh with each choice, each relationship, each response to life's inevitable challenges. They've stopped measuring their worth by society's youth-obsessed standards and started measuring it by their own deepening capacity to love, to serve, to leave something beautiful behind. The cultural narrative about aging is a kind of psychological poison, slowly convincing you that your best days are behind you, that innovation belongs to the young, that wisdom is just a consolation prize for losing your vitality. But what if this narrative exists precisely to rob you of your power during the years when you could be most dangerous to the status quo, when you have nothing left to lose, when you've seen through most of the lies, when you have the accumulated experience to spot patterns that the young miss entirely? Frankl understood that the aging possess a kind of radical freedom that threatens systems built on compliance and conformity. You're not supposed to realize that your 60s might be your most creative decade, that your 70s could be your most passionate, that your 80s might be when you finally speak your deepest truths. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize they've been living for other people's approval, following other people's timelines, chasing other people's definitions of success, and aging forces this reckoning whether you're ready or not. Your body changes, your energy shifts, your priorities clarify, and suddenly the elaborate performance you've been maintaining starts to feel exhausting rather than necessary. This is the moment of choice that determines whether aging becomes liberation or imprisonment. Will you fight this natural evolution, spending your remaining energy trying to be who you were, or will you embrace it as an invitation to become who you've always been beneath the roles and expectations? Frankl's secret lies in understanding that this transition isn't a defeat, it's a graduation. The most profound shift happens when you stop trying to turn back the clock and start learning to read it differently. not as a countdown to an ending, but as a measurement of how much meaning you've managed to create, how many lives you've touched, how much love you've given and received. Each wrinkle becomes a testament to laughter shared, each gray hair a witness to wisdom earned, each limitation a teacher showing you what really matters when the non-essential falls away. But this transformation requires something most people resist: the willingness to let go of who you thought you should be and embrace who you actually are, which often means disappointing people who preferred your performance to your authenticity. Now, we enter the territory that terrifies most people, the recognition that your younger self, the one you sometimes mourn, was actually the less evolved version of who you're becoming. That person had potential. You have actualization. That person had dreams. You have experience. That person had hope. You have tested resilience. But admitting this means acknowledging that growing older isn't about losing your best self. It's about finally meeting her. And this recognition can be so disorienting that many people prefer to cling to their younger identity rather than embrace their current becoming. Frankl discovered that most of our suffering around aging comes not from the reality of getting older, but from our resistance to the wisdom that comes with it, our refusal to see that what we're calling decline might actually be refinement. The paradox that breaks most people's minds is this: the very things you think you're losing as you age, spontaneity, possibility, unlimited potential, were often the things preventing you from accessing your deeper power. When you had infinite time, you wasted it. When you had endless options, you chose poorly. When you had unlimited energy, you scattered it across meaningless pursuits. Now, with time feeling precious, choices feeling consequential, and energy becoming focused, you finally have the ingredients for the kind of life that leaves a mark. But this requires grieving the illusion of your younger self's superiority and embracing the reality of your current self's depth, which most people find too threatening to their carefully constructed identity. Here's what Frankl understood that most people miss. Your youth wasn't wasted, but it wasn't your pinnacle either. It was your preparation. Every mistake you made, every heart you broke, every heart that broke you, every dream that died, and every one that survived, every moment you chose love over fear or fear over love, all of it was training you for this moment, when you finally have enough accumulated experience to make choices that matter on a deeper level. The young make choices based on potential. The aging make choices based on knowledge. The young love with their hormones. The aging love with their souls. The young chase experiences. The aging create meaning from experiences already lived. But here's where most people get trapped. They try to age gracefully by pretending that aging doesn't affect them, by maintaining all their youthful pursuits and appearances, by refusing to let their priorities shift naturally with their changing capacity. This isn't aging gracefully. It's aging fearfully, fighting every natural evolution instead of dancing with it. True grace in aging comes from allowing yourself to want different things, to value different qualities, to measure success by different standards, not because you've given up, but because you've graduated to a more sophisticated understanding of what makes life worth living. When a master pianist plays a simple melody, it sounds completely different from when a student plays it, not because the notes have changed, but because the player has deepened. The secret that will change everything about how you experience aging is this: you are not the same person you were at 20, 30, or 40, nor should you be. You're the evolved version, the refined version, the version that's been tested and proven. Every challenge you've survived has made you more resilient. Every loss you've grieved has made you more compassionate. Every love you've experienced has made you more capable of deeper love. But most people spend their aging years trying to recapture who they were, instead of celebrating who they've become, missing the profound gift of their own evolution. When you finally see your current self not as a diminished version of your younger self, but as the upgraded version, everything changes, including how you show up in the mirror each morning. There's a particular kind of violence in how our culture teaches us to experience aging, a systematic stripping away of dignity, relevance, and possibility that begins the moment you see your first gray hair or notice your first wrinkle. You're taught to apologize for every sign of having lived, to hide every marker of experience, to pretend you're still the same person you were decades ago, rather than celebrating the incredible journey of becoming that's brought you to this moment. Frankl saw through this cultural manipulation and recognized it for what it truly is, a way to neutralize the power of those who have nothing left to lose and everything to share. When you refuse to play this game, when you stop apologizing for having aged and start owning the wisdom that comes with it, you become dangerous to a system that profits from your insecurity and self-doubt. The most heartbreaking thing isn't watching your body change. It's watching people internalize society's messages about their worth decreasing with each passing year, watching them shrink their dreams, lower their expectations, and settle for invisibility when they could be stepping into the most powerful phase of their lives. Every time you say you're too old to try something new, start something bold, or speak your truth, you're not stating a fact. You're repeating propaganda designed to keep you small. Frankl would challenge you to examine these beliefs, to question whether your limitations are real or learned, to consider what becomes possible when you stop letting age define what you can and cannot do with your remaining time on this earth. What if the restlessness you feel as you age isn't about missing your youth, but about finally sensing your authentic self trying to emerge? What if the dissatisfaction with how things are isn't depression, but wisdom, recognizing that you've spent too many years living other people's versions of your life? The young adapt to the world as it is. The aging have the freedom to envision the world as it could be, because they've seen enough to know that the way things are isn't permanent or sacred. It's just what people have agreed to accept. Your aging isn't a retreat from relevance, it's a promotion to elder, to wisdom keeper, to someone who has earned the right to speak truth without needing permission or approval. But here's where the real transformation happens. When you stop trying to be relevant by youth standards and start being relevant by truth standards, you discover a kind of magnetism that has nothing to do with physical appearance and everything to do with authentic presence. People are starving for real conversation, for genuine wisdom, for someone who's been through enough to have perspective on what actually matters. Your wrinkles are proof you've smiled and cried. Your scars are evidence you've lived fully. Your slower pace is a sign you've learned to savor rather than consume. But you can only access this power when you stop seeing these changes as defects and start seeing them as credentials. The culture wants you to believe that aging is about losing your power, but Frankl knew the opposite is true. Aging is about discovering your real power, the power that comes not from youth's potential, but from experience's actualization. When you've survived enough disappointments to know that you can survive anything, when you've loved enough to know what love actually requires, when you've failed enough to know that failure isn't fatal, you become unstoppable in a completely different way than the young are unstoppable. Your power isn't in what you might do, it's in what you know you can do, because you've already done it. This shift from potential to proven capacity is what transforms aging from a process of diminishment into a process of empowerment. The final recognition that changes everything is this: you are not aging toward death, you are aging toward completion, toward the full expression of everything you came here to be and do. Every year adds another layer to your understanding, another dimension to your capacity for meaning-making, another tool in your arsenal for creating something beautiful from whatever circumstances life presents. The young create from inspiration, the aging create from integration, weaving together all their accumulated experiences into something no younger person could produce. Your age isn't your limitation. It's your qualification for tasks that require depth, patience, perspective, and the kind of hard-won wisdom that can only come from having lived through multiple cycles of loss and renewal. When Frankl spoke of finding meaning in suffering, he wasn't promoting masochism. He was revealing that our capacity to transform pain into purpose grows stronger with each challenge we survive. Your aging body isn't betraying you. It's teaching you about impermanence in a way that makes every moment more precious. Your changing energy isn't abandoning you. It's directing you toward what truly deserves your attention. Your shifting priorities aren't signs of giving up. They're signs of waking up to what actually matters after you've tried everything else. This is why some people become more beautiful as they age while others become bitter. It's not about genes, it's about whether they're working with their evolution or fighting against it. The secret that unlocks everything is learning to see your aging, not as subtraction but as distillation. You're not becoming less than you were, you're becoming more purely yourself, with all the non-essential elements slowly falling away, to reveal what was always most true about you. Your laugh lines are proof of joy chosen over despair. Your gray hair is evidence of wisdom earned through experience. Your slower pace is the natural rhythm of someone who no longer needs to rush because they've learned the difference between urgent and important. But this transformation only happens when you stop mourning who you were and start celebrating who you're becoming. Right now, as you listen to these words, you're at a choice point that will determine whether your remaining years are spent in resistance or acceptance, in fear or freedom, in regret or celebration. You can continue fighting the natural evolution of your life, spending your precious energy trying to recapture what was, or you can embrace the profound gift of your accumulated experience and start using it to create something beautiful with whatever time remains. Frankl's secret isn't about denying aging or pretending it doesn't affect you. It's about recognizing that aging consciously, with intention and acceptance, transforms you into the most powerful version of yourself you've ever been. The invitation is simple but revolutionary. Stop apologizing for having lived long enough to gain wisdom. Stop hiding the evidence of your experience. Stop measuring your worth by standards designed for a different stage of life. Start seeing your aging as your graduation into a more sophisticated understanding of what it means to be human. Start treating your accumulated experiences as the treasure they are. Start recognizing that your best years might not be behind you but ahead of you, if you have the courage to redefine what best actually means. This is Frankl's secret. Aging becomes liberation the moment you realize you're not losing your life, you're completing it. Tomorrow morning when you stand before your mirror, you will see something different, not because your reflection has changed, but because your understanding has transformed. The face looking back at you will no longer be a defendant in time's court, but a witness to your own becoming, carrying stories that only you can tell, wisdom that only you possess, and a depth that can only be earned through the sacred act of conscious living. Frankl's secret was never about conquering aging, but about recognizing that every moment you've lived has been preparing you for this one, where you finally understand that you are not your body's age, but your soul's accumulated richness, and that richness has no expiration date. The seasons change not to punish the tree, but to reveal its different faces of beauty, the bright green promise of spring, the full abundance of summer, the golden wisdom of autumn, the stark honesty of winter. You have been every season, and now you carry all seasons within you simultaneously, able to access the hope of spring when needed, the energy of summer when called upon, the wisdom of autumn when guidance is required, and the clarity of winter when truth must be spoken. This is the gift that terrifies the young and liberates the aging, the recognition that you are no longer becoming someone, you have become someone, and that someone is irreplaceable, irreducible, and infinitely valuable. What if the secret to accepting aging without fear isn't about acceptance at all, but about recognition, recognizing that every line on your face is a victory mark, every gray hair a badge of survival, every limitation a teacher showing you what truly matters when the superficial falls away? The mirror has never been your enemy. It has been your most honest friend, reflecting back not your decline but your refinement, not your ending but your completion, not your failure to remain young but your success at becoming wise. When you finally see this, aging transforms from a process you endure into a process you honor, from something that happens to you into something you participate in consciously, gracefully, powerfully. The conversation about aging ends here, but the conversation with aging begins now. In how you walk through your remaining days, in how you treat the evidence of your experience, in how you share the wisdom you've earned through surviving everything life has offered you. If these words have stirred something within you that feels like recognition, like coming home to a truth you always knew but had forgotten, Then leave a mark below. Share what shifted in your understanding, what questions arose in your quiet moments, what you're ready to stop apologizing for in your own magnificent journey of becoming. Subscribe not just to receive more content, but to join a community of souls who refuse to let the culture's fear of aging diminish their appreciation for the profound gift of having lived long enough to gain wisdom, and share this message with someone who needs to remember that their best chapters might still be unwritten.